Hades 2 is a bit of an anomaly for Supergiant Games. For a developer that avoids dabbing in sequels, it's just that. When it was announced, there was suitable hype and more than a bit of concern about whether it would live up to expectations. Now it's available in early access for PC via Steam and the Epic Game Store. There's no two ways about it. Hades 2 is beautiful, enthralling, involving, and also addictive. If you're a fan of the first game, then, well, this review is superfluous. You're probably already in there having a blast and maybe discovering new ways to break the game. For those who didn't know what to expect following the recent technical test or wondered how it differs from the first game, Hades 2 in early access offers a lot more. More fully voiced characters, more environments, and more enemies than the entirety of its predecessor. Even by early access standards, it's awe-inspiring. While not quite feature complete, several places have placeholder art and icons. The true ending isn't in place. There are yet more characters, systems, narratives, content, and environments to come. Nevertheless, it's packed with quality content, hundreds of lines of superb dialogue, memorable boss battles, another excellent soundtrack by Darren Korb, and many new ideas and mechanics that transcend the original. Yet, none of it is overwhelming. Whether you're embracing a new upgrade system or mastering the new infernal arms and their omega attacks, Hades 2 isn't just a worthwhile sequel that builds on every aspect of its predecessor, but yet another stellar example of early access done right, and another phenomenal title from Supergiant, but that's probably the least surprising part. Zagreus isn't the hero this time. Instead, it's Melinoë, his sister, daughter of Hades and princess of the underworld. Following the return of Kronos, the House of Hades is subsequently taken over and the family is taken away. Melinoë escapes, and after years of being raised by Hecate and learning to defend herself, Melinoë embarks on a mission to slay Kronos and save her family. Of course, the story goes beyond a simple revenge quest, as Olympus is also under siege by the forces of Kronos, which makes sense given that they were the ones to dispose of him. Right off the bat, the most noticeable shift from Zagreus to Melinoë is their temperance. The latter is often more composed, capable of spotting something riling her up, but also not aloof when it comes to those she cares about. There are also instances of self-doubt, not only in her abilities with each failure, but also in whether she can muster the rage to slay Kronos since she doesn't even know her family that well. Even with all that in mind, however, she pushes forward, devoted to her task and saving her kins while doling out punishment to those who betray the House of Hades. Like Zagreus, however, she's empathetic and respectful, going out of her way to help others and pay her dues to Olympus. The rest of the cast is also superbly well written and voiced. Whether it's Hecate and her wisdom, Odysseus and his easygoing nature, which belies his tactical approach, and Nemesis, part dismissive, part envious of Melinoë for taking on the task to defeat Kronos. Outside of your camp in the crossroads, all the noticeable characters are here, from Zeus and his lightning damage to Poseidon, thankfully receiving a rework in how his tidal attack works. Demeter is still great at inflicting freeze, though she no longer turns your casts into lasers, at least not initially. Hermes is still speed-focused, and Artemis is still the choice for crit damage and unleashing seeking arrows. It's the new additions which are worth noting, although I didn't get Hestia too much on my runs, but her specialty is Scorch, and it can be satisfying to send out fireballs with your special attacks, since they no longer have limited uses. As with the first game, boons also exist, whether it's weakening the damage from bosses, increasing the amount of mana gained up to a point, and much more, and they can all be upgraded. Eagle-eyed fans of the first game will doubtless have noticed the changes to boons and the new mechanics. Some will reserve a specific amount of your mana bar for passive effects like added attack power, armor, reduced damage, and more. Once you unlock elemental affinities, collecting elements associated with specific boons, or as special rewards from events, can allow for other special boons, like increasing dodge chance. As a whole, the build crafting options for a run have gone up significantly, and that's before delving into the combat. Early access offers 5 weapons. You start with the Witch's Staff and have the standard melee attacks and combo, dash attack, and special for range damage. However, Hades 2 introduces mana for omega versions of attacks. For example, the Witch's Staff functions much like a spear, but if you hold the attack button, it unleashes a straight line of devastating magic. Similarly, the special can turn a powerful orb that explodes to damage enemies in a larger area. Like with the first game, the other weapons offer vastly different playstyles, with the Sister Blades ideal for fast attacks and backstabs, while the Moonstone Axe unleashes heavy hits, a charged whirlwind, and even a block. If that weren't enough, you also have a cast, a spell that damages enemies in an area but takes some time to trigger. Start tossing in boons and upgrades with Palms of Power and the Daedalus Hammer returning, and you can deal increased backstab damage with the Sister Blades, ideal for its Omega attack, a cast that unleashes a multi-hit attack, a dash that weakens enemies, and an Omega special with ricocheting knives. Since you can also sprint, you can even conjure a barrier to negate one instance of damage while running. But wait, there's more. By taking on the upgrades of Selene, you can harness a powerful ultimate-like skill. Consume a set amount of mana to prep it, and you can dive bomb enemies, resurrect a slain foe to fight for you, drop a lunar nuke, unleash a powerful laser, or harness an invulnerable form with unique abilities for a brief period. Each of these has its own upgrade tree, further diversifying the available bonuses when using and not using them. While some options feel undeniably better than others, like Poseidon's passive damage reduction, the number of viable build options is still impressive. Combat in Hades 2 wouldn't feel nearly as compelling if it didn't have the threats to match, but unfortunately that's not the case. It may start simply enough, yet subsequent locations like Oceanus and the Fields of Mourning present more challenging threats. Armored foes are still as annoying as ever, but you also deal with enemies that shroud areas, continuously channeling lightning or bum rush you with sheer numbers. While you grow stronger, the forces of Kronos adapt accordingly, tossing new enemy types into the mix, so finding the right upgrades and benefits for your setup is key. The regions themselves are also more ambitious in scope than Hades. The Woods of Erebus are just the tutorial. Oceanus is like a dive through dilapidated waterworks with sea serpents and other hostile fish to deal with when you're not dodging steam traps. The Fields of Mourning are open and offer optional rewards, but finding and activating a golden tree is necessary to locate your rewards and the exits. Infiltrating the House of Hades to face Kronos also prevents familiar enemies, including those darn satyrs. There's much more to see than you'd initially expect, and it's all wonderfully realized. As for the bosses, you need to experience them for yourselves. If you thought the Furies were a fun boss fight in the first game, Scylla and the Sirens offer a can't-miss performance. Of course, there's also the persistent progression offered by the Arcana cards to consider. Unlocked with Ash, you can equip them based on the number of slots available, which Melinoë can increase by using Psych. Some other benefits like increased starting health and mana or passive mana regen, while others don't take up any slots but require customizing your deck in a specific way. Want to take advantage of an increased dodge chance? You better have at least 3 cards that occupy 3 slots activated at a time. Incantations become available as you progress and use gathered materials for different unlocks, like break rooms to recover health, reinstating the Wells of Charon, placing a keepsake shelf at the end of each region to switch them out, and so on. You can also pay Charon to ship certain materials to you between runs. If all this wasn't enough, there are new gathering tools for mining and digging materials, fishing, and even a Simon Says style minigame to pacify shades and bring them back to the crossroads for rewards. Perhaps my only criticism is having to choose only gathering 1 tool at a time. Carrying at least 2 tools would be great. While many aspects of Hades 2 carry over from the first game, the visuals are a definite step up. The environments are even more detailed, brimming with gorgeous effects, lightning, shadows, and particle effects. The character portraits are still incredible as ever, though many returning characters have received redesigns. While it works well enough for Zeus, Poseidon, and Demeter, Artemis feels a little bare bones compared to the first game. Early access and all that jazz, so expect improvements down the line. However, it must be reiterated, the sheer polish on offer here is simply incredible. I faced only one major bug where my dash and sprint suddenly stopped working, and that was fixed by simply restarting the game. There is work to be done with some of the character designs, interfaces, and icons, but even with multiple spells and effects going off simultaneously with dozens of enemies, performance is buttery smooth. Hades 2 captures that same sense of wonder as its predecessor, surprising you with new dialogue, events, and characters throughout each run. You may leap into a hole to progress, only for Kronos to suddenly stop you and throw you into a familiar territory. Nemesis might suddenly arrive and challenge you to slay enemies faster for some coins when she's not standing at Charon's and shopping for items. You might encounter Echo and Narcissus, who grant bonuses while presenting their own unique stories. It's an enthralling experience that constantly has you pursuing just one more run. You'll get the most out of the sequel by playing the original. However, as a hack-and-slash roguelite, Hades 2 shouldn't be missed. The only major drawback is that it isn't finished, and I can't imagine how much better it would be when everything comes together. Right now, however, this is a compelling, absurdly polished title that once again showcases Supergiant's prowess in every possible way. Whether it's for the story and its endearing characters, or the combat and exploration, Hades 2 is a sublime experience. Hey, did you know that we at Gaming Bolt upload new videos every day? Stick around, drop a like, subscribe, and hit that bell, and let us know what kind of content you'd like to see in the future with a comment below.